couple minutes, I'm going to pass around this sheet just for roll, but I'm going to give people a couple minutes to get in. Picking up, I think around line 405 or so. Let's see here. So recounting, Tyreseus comes in because he's been called for, and Tyreseus tells Oedipus that, as he puts it, you, line 401, you are the curse, the corruption of the land. Okay? Oedipus, you're shameless. Aren't you appalled to start up such a story? You think you can get away with this? Tyreseus, I have already. The truth with all its power lives inside me. Now when Tyreseus says, I have already, in response to, you think you can get away with this? I think what he's referring to is the fact that he's a prophet, okay? And he knows what Oedipus's fate is. And he's essentially saying, I have already, from the standpoint or from the perspective of looking in the future. And what he means is, you can't touch me. Why? Because you're not fated to do anything to me. Who primed you for this? Not your prophet's trade. So priming something, what does it mean to prime something? Like if you have to, prime an engine, prime a tank, prime a pump. You've got to pump it so that it fills with whatever the liquid gas, etc. is. He's saying, who pumped you, inspired you, breathed into you, that's what inspire means, to come up with this claim, this charge. Not your prophet's trade. What does he mean by trade? Job. Okay? What do you do in a job? I don't mean a specific job, but what does a job imply? You work, and what happens as a result of your work? You get paid. So you get paid for your work. He's saying your quote-unquote gift of prophecy is really nothing more than buying and selling. That is, if someone comes to you with enough money, you will do what? Tell them what they want to hear. Or tell them what you want them to hear. He's casting aspersions, let's say, on prophecy and prophets. Not anything like his mother is going to in a few pages, but he's casting doubt, let's say, on prophecy. So, who primed you to do this? You did. You forced me. You twisted it out of me, right? Because what was Tyreseus beginning to do at one point, not less than 100 lines previous? He had turned his back and started walking away. Because Oedipus makes a comment and says, don't turn away from me. Okay? So, Oedipus, okay, say it again. I'll understand it better. Didn't you understand just now? Or are you tempting me to talk? No. I can't say I grasped your meaning. Out with it again. Now, what's the it? What's the charge? Back up a little bit. Tyreseus says, you are the curse, the corruption of the land. All right? Now Tyreseus says, see, and that's kind of you're the curse, you're the corruption of the land. It's not crystal clear. It's pretty clear, but not crystal clear. I say you are the murderer, you hunt. That's pretty clear. Whew, that obscenity twice. By God, you'll pay. Oh, shall I say more so you can really rage? In other words, okay, so you're going to punish me here. Let me give you really good reasons to punish me. Oedipus says. And put Destiny's name down too. No, go ahead, Oedipus says. Rage as much as you want. Tyreseus, you cannot imagine. And then he pauses. You cannot imagine, I tell you, you and your loved ones live together in infamy. You cannot see how far you've gone in guilt. You cannot imagine, and then he pauses. Why the pause? It's like Tyreseus sees crystally clear in his mind what Oedipus is guilty of, and he's got to find the right words to describe it. But the words he describes, or the words he uses, again, are a riddle of sorts. You and your loved ones live together in infamy. You cannot see how far you've gone in guilt. Oedipus, you think you can get away with this? You can keep saying stuff like this and not suffer. Tyreseus, indeed, if the truth has any power. Yes, if truth has power. What does he mean by truth? I mean, he means literal truth, for one thing. What else? Where does Tyreseus get his truth from? And I don't mean his truth like, this is your truth and this is your truth. We all have our own little truths. Not that. From the gods. From the gods. Okay? Now, you do have to understand, in Greek mythology and stuff, the gods sometimes aren't all that truthful. They sometimes do actually lie, okay? But generally when you're talking about prophecy and such, that's where they tend to be more truthful, okay? So, if the truth, that is the knowledge, the oracle that I received, if that has any power, then yes, I'm protected. And I think it also means, regarding truth, his prophecy, the prophecy that he has foretold, okay, he's saying, if that is true, then you can't touch me. Okay? We'll pause for a second, because this is going to come up in a few moments. From whom did Laius and Jocasta receive the prophecy about their child?
Is it the Oracle of Delphi?
Oracle at Delphi. But who related what the oracle said to them? Because they didn't go there themselves. Tyreseus. He's the one who delivered the prophecy. Okay? Which is going to come up literally in a couple moments. So, Oedipus, it does. Truth does have power. But not for you, old man. You've lost your power. Stone blind, stone deaf, senses, eyes, blind as stone. What does he mean? You no longer have your gift. That's what he means. See, up until this point, within the world of the play, Tyreseus has always been right. Every prophecy he has related has been correct. Oedipus is saying, but you're wrong this time. And I kind of think the rest of the people, like the chorus standing out there, they're going, I don't know, odds are pretty good that he's not wrong this time. Okay? So he says, you are stone blind, stone deaf. You don't hear what is said, and you don't see what is available to be seen. Tyreseus responds, pity you. Flinging at me the very insults each man here will fling at you soon. Why? Jump forward 500 years, because Jesus frequently said, he who has eyes to see, let him see, and he who has ears to hear, let him hear. Those are just metaphors for perceiving, understanding. And Tyreseus is saying, everybody standing here are going to say, blind as a bat, deaf as, I don't know, what's deaf? Helen Keller, whatever. So, Oedipus, blind. And he's looking at Tyreseus. And Tyreseus, obviously, because he's blind, doesn't know Oedipus is looking at him. Blind, lost in the night, endless night that nursed you. Night, by the way, is associated with chaos. Okay? You can't hurt me or anyone who sees the light. Remember that I had themes up here? Light versus dark, seeing versus blindness, knowledge versus ignorance. Okay? You, Oedipus says, can never touch me. Tyreseus, you're right. You're right. It's almost like he's trying to reach out a fig leaf, olive branch to him. It is not your fate to fall at my hands. Notice what he's telling us. I know your fate. Apollo is quite enough, and he will take some pains to work this out. Now, he's not suggesting the gods / Apollo are the henchmen of fate. That is, fate says, Apollo, do this. And Apollo, yes, Lord. And Apollo comes down and does it. Not that at all. In the Greek cosmological system, you've got fate, and fate works directly on humanity, and you've got the gods, and the gods work directly on humanity. Okay? But the gods can see fate. I don't mean fate personified. I mean they can see everything fate has in store for humanity. And every now and then, the gods will go, destiny. I know what's going to happen with your destiny. And sometimes they do that just to play tricks with us. Sometimes they do it for greater reasons, like to produce great works of literary art, so to speak. Sometimes they tell an untruth about what fate has in store. Okay? But fate doesn't control the gods, and the gods don't control fate. All right? So, Tyreseus, you're right. I can't touch you. Apollo will take care of that. Oedipus, crayon. Is this his conspiracy or yours? What? Where did he get crayon? They haven't been talking about crayon for over 100 lines. And all of a sudden, crayon pops into his mind. And so what does he do? What does it appear Oedipus is kind of wont or used to doing? He accuses. Crayon's not your downfall. This is prophet speaking. It's not crayon. It's like, let me look into my black crystal ball, and nope, not crayon. No, you are your own. You are your own downfall. Oedipus is kind of like, I never thought about this before. Wow, that would be an interesting thing to examine. Oedipus is kind of like if you're familiar with old Bugs Bunny cartoons. Not literally Bugs Bunny, but Warner Brothers. Wile E. Coyote. Roadrunner. What's the Roadrunner always trying to do? Trying to get that damn, what's the coyote, Wile E. Coyote, always trying to do? Get the damn Roadrunner. And every plot he does falls upon himself. It's Hamlet's characters being hoisted by their own petard, okay? Which we'll talk about when we get to Hamlet, assuming we ever get to Hamlet. So, Oedipus then launches into this big, long speech. Oh, power, wealth, and empire, skill outstripping skill in the heady rivalries of life. What envy lurks inside you? So he's addressing power, not the gods, not Apollo, just the sheer fact of power. And says, what envy lurks inside? What's his point? Everyone who runs for president wants what? Power. They want power. For what reason? Everyone will tell you, oh, to do good, to solve the problems of the American economy, to solve the problems of the American this, that, or to solve the problems of the world, blah, 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 right? But without power, I can't do it, kind of a thing, okay? So he goes into this big thing about power, and what does it do? It makes people do stuff they wouldn't otherwise do. For example, for this alone, crayon, the soul of trust, my loyal friend, etc., steals against me. Why? He wants power. Okay? What would a psychologist possibly say Oedipus is doing here? Anybody know the word? Had an intro to psych course? He is projecting. So, he then addresses Tyreseus again. Come here, you pious fraud. Pious, holy, full of devotion, but a charlatan at the same time. When did you ever prove yourself a prophet? When were you ever right? In other words, is what he's saying. When the Sphinx that chanting fury kept her death watch here, where were you then? Come on, Tyreseus. Why didn't you solve the problem of the riddle of the Sphinx? Well, because he's a prophet. He's not a riddle master. Not the same thing. It's like, not in my job description. Okay? Did you rise to the... No, not a word. He said, but I came, Oedipus the ignorant, and I stopped the Sphinx with no help. From what? From birds, the flight of my own intelligence. Meaning, no help from the augury, A-U-G-U-R-Y, of divining the future from slitting a bird open, doing this, and having its guts laid out and go, let's see now. What does that mean? That's, the liver's over here. And okay? The leader listens to all of Oedipus' speech and says, I would suggest his words are spoken in anger. Who's the his words? He's not talking about Oedipus necessarily. I think he's talking about Tyreseus. Oedipus, yours too. That is, shh, calm down. And it isn't what we need. We don't need you two full of anger at each other. What do we need? Let's put it in a modern context. We need Republicans and Democrats to sit down together and find the solution. Okay? The best solution to the oracle, the riddle posed by God, that's what we should be looking for. Tyreseus. Notice Tyreseus just kind of ignores the leader of the chorus. I kind of think if I were directing this, producing it, whatever, I'd just kind of have probably Tyreseus give the chorus the bird. You are the king, no doubt. You are the king. But in one respect at least, I am your equal. Right? Because the king is not equal to everybody else. The king's higher, the king's above. But he says there is one part that I am equal. The right to reply. What's he mean by the right to reply? Right to self-defense. Not physical, verbal. You've accused me. I have a right to defend myself. I claim that right. I am not your slave. I serve Apollo. I don't need crayon to speak for me in public. So you mock my blindness. Really? That's like mocking somebody for what?
Disability.
Okay, a disability. What else? I've suggested that he's born without eyes. He can't control that. That's like I mock somebody because they're short. Randy Newman, short people have no reason to live, you know. My daughter's daughter, eldest daughter, who's the shortest one, hated that song, okay? Mock somebody because of their skin color, because of their hair color, because of their eye color, because of whatever. So let me tell you this, you with your precious eyes, that is, you with your 20/20 vision, you're blind to the corruption of your life. Stop there? Nope. You're blind to the corruption of your life, to the house you live in, those you live with. Okay? What does he mean? You're blind to the corruption of your life, you're blind to the house you live in, and you are blind to those you live with. Pretty damn blind, right? And then, pause. Who are your parents? Could update that. Who's your daddy? Who's your mama? Come on, Oedipus. Why? Why at that point does Tyreseus ask that question? Louder?
Is it because he drives the knife in?
Sticks that shiv in and just starts to scramble his guts. Okay? I mean, that's one way of looking at it. What else is it, though? What does he plant in Oedipus's mind?
Doubt. He's the question he used, right?
A question that Oedipus has already had. Because the drunk at the party said, "You're not your father's son. You're a bastard." Who are your parents? Do you know? See, and Tyreseus knows enough about Oedipus's character that by raising that kind of question, Oedipus won't be able to do what? Answer it.
Move off of it.
Let it go. He won't be able to. Oedipus is like a dog with a bone. Okay? He's going to tell us later on, I can't stop. I have to get to the truth. He has to solve the riddle. That's what he is. Give him a riddle and he'll go, damn it. I have other things to do, but now this is playing. Have you ever had, a situation where somebody asks you something, and as soon as they ask you, you know what they're going to ask, and you know the answer. And once they finish, it's like the answer goes, and you're like, I know this, and it's going to trouble me all day long. I had that happen the other day in one of my classes. I started to say something, and it was like train of thought totally derailed. And it came to me like 2 days later. I was doing something else, and poof, there it is. And I remembered it so that I could go into class and, I think I wrote it down on the board or something. Do you know? All unknowing, you are the scourge of your own flesh and blood. Now, unknowing, that's present tense. Another word for unknowing, all ignorant. You are the scourge of your flesh and blood. But I think when Tyreseus says that, he means that in 2 time senses. He means it now. He is the scourge of his flesh and blood. Scourge like whip. Okay? Who are his flesh and blood? Now, we come to discover, the audience knows this, his wife, aka mother, and children. aka siblings. That's the now. But also, all unknowing, he's the scourge of his flesh and blood, Laius. He didn't come up to that crossroads. We're going to find out about the crossroads later. He didn't come up to that crossroads later and go, we look alike. You're old enough to be my father. Get out of the way or I'm going to have to kill you. What's your name? Laius? What, you had a son? Oedipus? He didn't kill him knowingly. All right? So, all unknowing, you are the scourge of your own flesh and blood, the dead below the earth, Daddy, Laius, and the living here above. And the double lash of your mother and father's curse will whip you from this land one day, their footfall treading you down in time. In other words, like they're chasing him. Darkness shrouding your eyes that can now see the light. How's that for a prophecy? Your mother and father are going to chase you till death, till you die. That is obviously metaphor. It means your guilt for your mother and father is going to hound you. Okay? So he goes on. Notice, can Tyreseus stop there? Has he pretty much said enough? Yeah, but what did he say at the beginning? When he says, I'm going to tell you more so that you can really rage. Okay? That was 4:15. So he goes on. Soon, soon you'll scream aloud what haven won't reverberate. What's meant by haven? What is a haven?
Safe.
It's a safe place. Universities around the country have safe places where you can go and be protected from bad ideas that you don't want to hear. There are no safe places in this room. None of my classes. I tell them, no safe. You're going to hear stuff you don't like. Deal with it and grow up. Okay? Let it bounce off. Whatever. There will be no safe spaces for Oedipus. Wherever he goes, he's going to hear what? You will scream aloud. Wherever he goes to try to find peace and rest, he'll never find it. What else? What rock of Kithaeron won't scream back in echo? Kithaeron is a mountain outside Thebes. There was a real Thebes, I think it's still there today, it goes by another name, in ancient Greece, and there's a real mountain named Mount Kithaeron. And the practice was, if you had a child you didn't want, take the child, leave the child on the mountain to die, for wild animals to come, eat and stuff. That's where, we're going to find out later, that's where Oedipus was left. When the shepherd took him, sat him down, another shepherd was there, he said, I'll take him, etc. Okay? I think by his referencing Kithaeron, Tyreseus is again looking back in time to the the cries and screams of Oedipus the baby, whose ankles had been nailed together. He's not going to stop crying, within a couple hours. No morphine's going to take away that, which they didn't have, by the way. And in the future, when he leaves Thebes, that day you learn the truth about your marriage, the wedding march that sang you into your halls, the lusty voyage home to the fatal harbor. And that last line, it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for what? Sex with his mother. Going back to the place or re-entering the place from which he came. Okay? And a crowd of other horrors you never dream will level you with yourself and all your children. Crowd of other horrors is what? All your children. There's what's called I think, I'm not positive, I think that's what's called a chiastic or chiasmus, where you have, in a sentence or a line like this, if it's kind of divided, this makes reference to this, and this will often make reference to this. Okay? So it kind of works. This goes to that goes to that. Crowd of horrors, all your children, There. Done. You want to rage? You want to kill me now? I've given you good reason to kill me. Now smear us. Who's the us? Crayon and myself. And every word I've said. No man will ever be rooted from the earth as brutally as you. What does rooted from the earth mean? An instance that shows how important prepositions are. From. Not rooted to the earth. Rooted from the earth means being pulled up by the roots. No stability, no permanence, nothing will be the same, everything will constantly be in flux. He says, no one will ever be as unrooted as you are. Okay? Enough. Get out. Go get. Vanish. I wouldn't have come, but you made me come. In other words, this is your fault, Oedipus. If I thought you would blurt out such absurdities, you'd have died waiting. If I knew this is what you were going to say, I'd have sent an assassin. Tyreseus, absurd am I? To you, not to your parents. The ones who bore you found me sane enough. Now what goes through Oedipus' mind at this point? Polybus? Merope? They sent for the prophet? I mean, Tyreseus wasn't bound to Thebes. All right? Parents? Who? Wait. Who is my father? Tyreseus asked him, who are your parents? And notice, it sticks. The glue is now in the mind, and it's just sitting there. Who is my father? Why? Because of that damn party back in Corinth where the drunk stood up and said, you're a bastard. You are not your father's child. This day will bring your birth and your destruction. Nice little riddle, right? Now, this day, you will learn who you really are, and you're going to learn where you're going, And notice, this day. Why? The other day when I had up here Aristotle, the three unities, time, place, action, everything within the play happens within 24 hours. Riddles. Notice, riddles. All you can say are riddles. Murk and darkness. Ah, but you're the best man alive at solving riddles. Come on, Oedipus, riddle me this. Solve the riddle. Come on, you can solve the riddle of the Sphinx. You've already accused me because I didn't solve the riddle of the Sphinx. Why didn't Tyreseus solve the riddle of the Sphinx? Because it wasn't fated to, and because Apollo didn't give him the answer. Mock me for that. Go on. You'll reveal my greatness. Your great good fortune, true. It was your ruin. I don't know. Might disagree slightly with their Tyreseus. I'd say maybe the ruin began a little bit before solving the riddle of the Sphinx, when he killed the guy old enough to be his father. I mean, after all, assume you're Oedipus for a moment. You go to the Oracle of Delphi, and it tells you you are fated to kill your father, marry your mother, sleep with her, and have children by her. What two things do you never do? Kill a man old enough to be your father, sleep with a woman old enough to be your mother. Just cross those two off your bucket list, and you can do everything else you want. And you'll never tempt fate, you know. So, not if I saved the city. It was your great fortune true. It was your ruin. Not if I saved the city. What do I care? Now, Oedipus says something there that I kind of find interesting because it gives a little bit of depth to his character. He's saying, what do I care what happens to me if I save the city? The city is what's important. It's not about me. It's about the city. If only he really believed that. Tyreseus, well, I'll be going then. Take me on, boy. So, Oedipus starts to turn and head into the palace doorway. So here's Tyreseus. Oedipus, at this point, is not yet within the palace doors. This is the Skene. You've got a picture or a diagram of a Greek theater in your book. Skene is the building at the back of the stage that people enter and exit from. Okay? Once they go inside, beyond the doorway, that character cannot hear anything on the stage. Yes, the actor physically can. The character cannot. Okay? So, Oedipus turns his back on Tyreseus and starts going towards the palace. And Tyreseus is like, oh, well, I got one more word. Final parting shot. Or, no, I can't mix that one up. I will go. Once I've said what I came here to say. Like, everything he said thus far isn't it. I will never shrink from the anger in your eyes. You can't destroy me. Now, there is no other way of looking at that, but that's a challenge. You are the great and mighty king. I'm just an old blind seer. But you can't touch me. It's like if Oedipus were to suddenly magically have a revolver in his hand, and he were to point, cock, pull the trigger, that bullet would go like a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Why? Fate. I don't remember how Tyreseus dies in Greek mythology. I don't know if it's ever actually mentioned, but he does die because Odysseus meets him in the underworld in the Odyssey. So, he goes on, listen to me closely. It's almost like he's saying, read my lips, you know. The man you sought so long, proclaiming, cursing up and down, the murderer of Laius, he is here. And I think he probably does just what I did. Here, like right here, not out there in the city, right here. Oedipus is still making his way to the palace. A stranger, you may think, who lives among you. He soon will be revealed a native Theban, that is, someone born in Thebes. But he will take no joy in the revelation. That is, you and he think he's a stranger, but the truth will be revealed he's actually native Theban. But he won't be happy about that. Blind who now has eyes, beggar who now is rich, he will grope his way toward a foreign soil, a stick tapping before him step by step. And I think that's a nice little touch. Why the emphasis on born in Thebes, adult now, and he will walk with a stick? Riddle of the Sphinx. Oedipus was born as a baby, walked on 4, grew up to be a man, and when he leaves Thebes, he's going to be blind and he's going to be tapping his way before himself. Okay? And at that point, Oedipus, he hears that step by step, and Oedipus goes in the palace. Now he can't hear what Tyreseus says. But Tyreseus doesn't see him go into the palace because he's blind. His sight, his seeriness, I don't know how you would call that, doesn't, enable him to see the physical world. Revealed at last. So who hears this? The audience, obviously. Who else? The chorus. Because the chorus is just standing down there in the orchestra, okay, during this period. Orchestra has nothing to do with music in the Greek plays. The orchestra is where the chorus does its walking back and forth. All right? Revealed at last, brother and father, both to the children he embraces. And the audience goes, ew. To his mother, son, and husband both. And probably most of the audience goes, ew. Then there's probably some sickos back there going, way to go, Oedipus. Weird. He sowed the loins his father sowed. He spilled his father's blood. Go in and reflect on that. Solve that. And if you find I've lied from this day onward, call the prophet blind. Tyrese leaves. Chorus. Who? Pause. Who is the man the voice of God denounces resounding out of the rocky gorge of Delphi? In other words, just give us a name. Just name. No riddles. Just the horror too dark to tell, whose ruthless bloody hands have done the work. His time has come to fly, to outrace the stallions of the storm. Cased in armor, Apollo, son of the Father, lunges on him, etc., etc. Okay? So, who is it? Who is the God kind of chasing down, etc.? Line 550. The skilled prophet scans the birds and shatters me with terror. I can't accept him. That is, I can't accept the words of Tyreseus. Why? Because he's implying it's Oedipus, and Oedipus is our king, and can't be that. And I can't deny him. Why? Because Tyreseus has never been wrong. Don't know what to say. So if I can't believe him, but can't deny him, that's the proverbial stuck between a rock and a hard place. Or as Joseph Heller put it, a catch-22. He's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. I'm lost in the wings of dark foreboding beating. Lost, like blind, and it's like chaos is coming after me. What could breed a blood feud between Laius' house and the son of Polybus? Why would the son of Polybus have killed Laius? In other words, the leader of the chorus, or the chorus is suggesting, okay, so Tyrese says Oedipus killed Laius. What does the chorus apparently not know? Because he said Oedipus, the son of Polybus. They don't know about the prophecy. Well, yet. Zeus and Apollo know, 561, the great masters of all the dark and depth of human life. But whether a mere mortal, I don't know. Never, the end of that speech, never will I convict my king, never in my heart. I just can't. Crayon comes in. Notice Crayon does not beat around the bush. This is line 573 or so. He's just like, what? I hear King Oedipus levels terrible charges against me, or at me. I had to come. I I resent it deeply. If in the present crisis he thinks he suffers any abuse from me, anything I've done or said, I've no desire to linger out this life, my reputation in ruins. I don't want to keep on living if my reputation is destroyed. All right? He says, no, I need to know what happened. Leader. A slur might have been forced out of him. Tyreseus got him all worked up, and he said some things. By anger, perhaps. Not any firm conviction. Right? Who among us, literally in this classroom, can say, I've never been put in a situation where I've said some things where a few minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years later I've said, oops, shouldn't have said that. That's what the leader is saying. Oedipus, heat of the moment, I don't really think he meant it. Crayon. Charge was made in public, right? He publicly accused me that I put the prophet up to spreading lies. Well, yeah, such things were said, but I don't know with what intent. Maybe he didn't really mean it. That's not the point. What's the point from Crayon's point of view? It was said publicly. Okay? His point is, like a member of the cabinet years ago in Ronald Reagan's administration said after he was publicly smeared, lied about, where do I go to get my reputation back? Because once it's been dragged through the mud, hard to get the mud off. Yeah. Was his glance steady? His mind right when the charge was brought against me? In other words, was he in his sane mind or was he crazy? I couldn't say. I don't like to judge those in power. One's in power. What's the leader doing or not doing? You could put it either way. He's not taking a side. What are the sides? Crayon, Oedipus. He's like, you guys are both powerful. Whatever I say, I'm screwed. I side with Crayon, Oedipus is angry at me. I side with Oedipus, Crayon's angry with me. Both of them have power to end me. Okay? Oedipus comes in. You here? Like, really? You've got the you-know-what to come in front of my palace? Plotting to kill me? Kill the king? Time out. Where has anybody suggested Crayon and Tyreseus were plotting to kill Oedipus? That's not been suggested before. The plotting was that Oedipus suggested was what? Louder? Possibly, but those are Oedipus's words. Those aren't Tyreseus' words or Crayon's words. They plotted together to kill Laius, was what Oedipus suggested. Now, he's kind of updated the charge. Updated literally by like 30 years. So you killed one king, now you're plotting against me. Tell me in God's name, 559, what did you take me for, 599, coward or fool, when you spun out your plot? You didn't think I'd detect it? You didn't think I'd find out, etc., etc.? Crayon, are you quite finished? What's he really mean? Shut them up. That's what he's getting at. Like, just stop. No. Quit digging, because the hole's getting deeper and deeper. It's your turn to listen. Hear me out, then judge on the facts. Oedipus replies, just hear me out. Okay? If you think crude, mindless stubbornness such a gift, you've lost your sense of balance. What has he just accused Oedipus of? He's stubborn. Now, stubbornness can be a virtue if it's for what? to defend something good, truth, honor, loyalty, justice, things like that. What's Oedipus defending? Himself, his pride. Okay? So we get a character description of Oedipus. He's stubborn, he sticks to his guns. Who else have we heard who is described as kind of being stubborn? Who trusted in the latent, ravening ferocity of the rightness of his own convictions? Abner Snopes. Real honorable, virtuous guy, right? Oedipus. If you think you can abuse a kinsman and escape blame, you're wrong, or escape the penalty. What kinsman? See, Oedipus doesn't know what he's saying. He's thinking kinsman, brother-in-law. But he's also uncle. Crayon. You're right, fair enough. But this injury you say I've done, what is it? In other words, come on, tell me, give me the exact word. You and that sanctimonious prophet, did you send for him? He said, yeah, I do the same. Okay, how long, tell me, how long, what are we talking about Laius for? You've accused, when did Laius vanish? Whew, that's a long time ago. That far back was the prophet at his trade. When Laius was killed or went missing, was Tyreseus selling prophecies, Yeah, just as skilled and honored as today. Notice the little slap down. Don't be dissing Tyreseus. Did he ever refer to me? Did at the time Tyreseus say, look for a man named Oedipus? No, not when I was in his presence. Notice Crayon, he is very judicious in his words. He doesn't say, no, Tyreseus never mentioned you. He says, not in my presence. What he said to other people. It's his way in one sense, kind of hanging Tyreseus possibly out to dry, throwing him under the bus, so to speak. But you investigated the murder. We did our best. Great seer never accused me then. Why not? What do you mean? That's like, if it's Tuesday, it must be blue. What? It doesn't make any sense. Non sequitur, like I put on the board the other day. I don't know, and when I don't, I keep quiet. Wham! Shut up, Oedipus. You don't know what you're talking about. You do know this, and you'll tell it too if you had a shred of decency. So what's the this? You guys put your heads together and plotted against me. Okay? He goes on, and Crayon finally says, shut up. Just listen for a moment. And Crayon gives a long speech, and he describes the situation from his point of view. What does he say? You and your wife co-rule, correct? You have equal power. And Oedipus says, not quite. He says, I give her what she wants. So when Crayon says you have equal power, Oedipus, Jocasta. Oedipus says, no. I give her what she wants. Oedipus, Jocasta. Okay, I'm at top. I'm in charge. And Crayon says, and I'm the third. I co-rule with you. Oedipus, Jocasta, Crayon. Not quite. Oedipus, Jocasta, Crayon. King. What's Crayon's point? Let's use modern terminology. 1 minute left. President, vice president, something else. We don't have an equivalent. Even the vice president isn't co-equal to the president. But assume for a moment we have president, co-president, and then something else. This something else is essentially saying, I get all the perks of the job. Well, what are the perks of the presidency? White House, limo, the beast, Air Force One, Marine One, Submarine One, whatever one you're on is the one. I get all of that without what? He doesn't have to make any decisions. He has none of the headaches of the job that Oedipus has. Why would I want to kill you and take your place? Updated. Why would I want to kill Joe Biden and have to deal with the Republicans? Or why would I want to kill Donald Trump and have to deal with the Democrats? Pick your president, it doesn't matter. He's saying, I've got the best of everything right now. I want you to live long and prosper, do the whole Star Trek thing. Not my problem, okay? We will pick up, because it's 10:05, on Friday with we're just about 15 lines behind my first class, line 691 by the leader. Okay? Did anybody come in? I don't think anybody came in after I did that. All right. Remember, exam due Friday. It might be wrong on D2L. It might say Thursday. I'm going to change that today. It's supposed to be Friday night. I just had the dates wrong in my mind. All right.